From the Watergate Building in Washington, this is Hotline TV. Now, here's Hotline editor, John Mercurio.
Hey everybody, it's Hotline TV. I'm Amy Walter.
And I'm Shira Tuplitz. John's off today, and he's still on his knitting cruise.
It's a long way away, yeah. Well, new polls out this week show Mitt Romney doing very well in New Hampshire and Iowa, but still polling in the 8 to 12 range nationally, the same place he's been for the last couple months despite all of his fundraising. And while Romney's opted out of the YouTube debate, he appears to be putting a lot of stock in the Iowa straw poll. Cheryl, is Iowa going to show Romney some big love?
Well, let's say the man has invested heavily there, and he has the means to do so. So I think his own personal investment, if it's gonna show a positive net for him, it's going to be in Iowa and New Hampshire. I think he spent the money on the organization there.
But now he's talked about, well, he's trying to lower expectations in the straw poll. He's trying to lower expectations for himself in Iowa. Just how can he do that? Is he going to be able to get away with it?
I mean, he's going to try, but I think it's pretty hard to lower expectations at this point when he's hired as much staff as he has, when the executive director of the Iowa Republican Party, Chuck Lodner, I think I mispronounced your name, Chuck, sorry.
He's a big fan of the show, so you might have to write a letter afterward.
That's all right. I'll write you an email, sorry. I'll plug your new book. Anyway, so he said he's the best organization in the state. I mean, that said, I don't know if Romney can do anything than to say it, and he's saying it, and no one's really believing it,
So if you're Mitt Romney, then here's always the question to me is, it's not so much what Mitt Romney lowering expectations as it is the other candidates in the field, right? What do Giuliani and Thompson decide to do in Iowa as we move along? Do they just concede it and say, you know what, Romney, he's supposed to win big there, and make him live up to a bar that everybody knows he's not going to be able to hit, but let the press sort of write that story and help their case, and then make the fight really be played out in New Hampshire and South Carolina? What about New Hampshire? I mean, it seems as if that's another place where he's seen some incredible momentum, but we also know that the race has not really been engaged up there at this point. So what happens when Rudy and company come to town?
Well, we'll see how much their media ad buys do. Right now, Giuliani is really the only other candidate who can afford to put a lot of money in media there. He's done some radio ads, but he's yet to go up on the TV, and I think that'll be truly a test of how New Hampshire is going to react to his candidacy. Obviously, a lot of the pundits say he'll be taken much more seriously there because of his positions on various social issues, but I think it'll be interesting to see just how much when he goes toe-to-toe with the media buys in Romney.
Well, it seems to me, too, the other issue is when you look at the most recent New Hampshire polls, the thing that stands out to me, actually there are two things that stand out to me the most. The first is that nobody feels very wedded to the candidate in which they say they're committing to right now. This is a very fluid situation. And the second is that 2/3 of Republicans say they want to vote, 2/3 of independents say they are going to vote in the Democratic primary, which does then theoretically help out somebody like Mitt Romney. I mean, if he can really put himself out there as the Republican consensus conservative candidate, it leaves not a whole lot of room for somebody like McCain or even like Giuliani, who's hoping that a McCain collapse ultimately benefits him. So, you look at the situation there, and it really could come down to how Fred Thompson is brought in by the good folks of New Hampshire. Right now, I was surprised to see how high his negatives were. His negatives were up in the 30s.
Fred Thompson's negatives?
Yeah, which I found quite interesting considering the fact that nobody knows anything about him, but yet he had negatives that were almost as high as John McCain. Perhaps it's just they hear the Southern accent and assume that he's going to be a Southern type of Republican who wouldn't sell well in the East. I don't know. But
well, let me tell you, he's certainly bought himself a lot of time. Fred Thompson's bought himself a lot of time by, pushing his stuff his announcement off until after Labor Day, or who knows when it's going to be at this point, because then he's not in the Iowa straw poll, and he totally escapes that whole mess. So he's bought himself a lot of time there. As far as New Hampshire goes, New Hampshire residents, when was the last time they voted for a Republican candidate with a Southern accent in their primary? They went for McCain. He doesn't have an accent in 2000, so it'll be tough to see. I guess they went for Dole. Doesn't really count as an accent, does it?
Yeah, Bill Clinton. But he's not a Republican.
No.
Not so much.
No.
Well, anyway, we're out of time today. I wish we could all be in Iowa eating pork chops on a stick at the straw poll, but alas, we'll still be here. Shira, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Amy.
We'll see you next time on Hotline TV.